Very warm welcome to all the students. I hope you have seen part 1, 2, 3 and 4 of chapter 3 from the book Movement. And now moving ahead with the part 5. In this we will see in the part 4 we read, from that day on Mahendra's, for all his brave talk, went to bed with a certain uneasy, and every night he peered into the darkness outside through the window next to his bed, trying to make sure that there was no movement of dark shapes in the vicinity, but he could only see a sea of darkness with the twinkling lights of the factory miles away. See, what is vicinity means? A nearby area. See, Mahendra showed that he was very brave, but on the contrary, he was uneasy also. Why? Because the story Iswaran had narrated, every night before going to bed, he peeped out of his window next to his bed to assure himself, to assure that himself that there was no ghost around, and he did not see any ghost but only saw darkness, and that also the twinkling lights of the factory. He had always liked to admire the milk white landscape on full moon nights, but after hearing Iswaran's story of the female ghost, he avoided looking out of his window altogether when the moon was full. See, before listening to the insurance story, Mahendra's light watching, he loved to see the light watching the white colorful landscape of on the moon, full moon night that we used to see, as in this way he would feel that he told that it was on a full moon night and a female ghost haunted place, and he stopped looking out on that night as he was very frightened, afraid, bumping into the ugly ghost. One night Mahendra was woken up from his sleep by a low moan close to his window. Moan means crying sound. At first he put it down to cat prowling around for mice. Prowling means searching around for a mice. But the sound was too guttural for a cat, means the sound that produced in the throat, that was harsh sound. It was sounding harsh, and he resisted the curiosity to look out. See what he least he should behold a sight which would stop his heart, but wailing become, means crying sound which was happening, become louder and less feline, means related to cats or the other members of the cat family. In the what he heard, wailing, this was wailing louder and a less feline, and he could not resist the temptation anymore. Lowering himself to the level of the window sill, he looked out of the white sheet of a moonlight outside. There, not too far away, was a dark, cloudy form clutching a bundle. Mahendra broke into a cold sweat and fell back onto the pillow, panting as he panting means what? Breathing heavily, as he gradually recovered from the ghastly experience. He began to reason with himself and finally concluded that it must have been some sort of auto-suggestion, some trick that his subconscious had played on him. See, one night as the Mahendra was asleep, when he was asleep, he was awakened by what? By the sound of someone crying, and he thought that it would be a cat looking for a mice, and tried to go to sleep back. But the sound became more harsh, and it seemed to be the human sound. And the Mahendra wanted to peep. He wanted to peep out of the window, but he stopped himself. Why? He was afraid that of the ghost, and he would even die. And the crying sound became louder, and it did not appear to be the sound of a cat. And Mahendra could not stop himself. He could not stop, so he bent down and lifted his head slightly in order to peep out. In the white colored moonlight, Mahendra saw the ghost, and it was holding a bundle in one hand. Mahendra panicked and he was breathing very heavily, and he fell back onto the bed. After some time he recovered from the scary experience and thought that probably that his subconscious mind was showing him the ghost, and he had been thinking of it from when he heard about the sound, and he assured himself that actually there was no ghost and his mind was playing a trick on him. By the time he had got up in the morning, had a bath, and come out to have his breakfast, the horror of the previous night had faded from his memory. See what happened by the time Mahendra woke up. He took his bath and came out for the breakfast, and he had forgotten all the ghostly experience that he had the previous night. Iswaran greeted him at the door with his lunch packed and his bag. Just as Mahendra was stepping out, Iswaran grinned. What grinned means smiled broadly and said, "Sir, remember the other day when I was telling you about the female ghost with a fetus in its arms? You were so angry with me for imagining things. Well, you saw yourself last night. I came running, hearing the sound of moaning, means that was coming from your room." See what he said, Iswaran, that he greeted him and gave him the lunch and his bag. As Mahendra was about to leave, Iswaran smiled and he said that the other day, that the last night Mahendra has scolded him, the before few days Mahendra scolded him for discussing the ugly ghost. But last night what happened? Mahendra himself saw it, and Iswaran had heard Mahendra's cry the previous night. He heard the cry of Mahendra that was coming from his room. A chill went down Mahendra's spine. He did not wait for Iswaran to complete his sentence. He hurried away to his office and handed in his paper, resolving to leave the haunted place the very next day. See what happened? That a chill went down Mahendra's spine. Spines mean backbone. When Iswaran's comment scared Mahendra's once again, and he did not hear him further and hurried off to his office. And he did not wait to complete his sentence also. And he hurried to the office and handed his paper. He decided to, and what happened? And he resolving to leave the haunted place, means he resigned the place the very next day. So he decided to resign from the job and leave the haunted place, and he could not live there any longer. And the story is written by R.K. Lakshman. Hope you have understood this chapter. Thank you.